Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. I have my little W mug that my sister got me for Christmas with some orange clove tea, so it's a good day. I also have my Star Wars Hoth Christmas sweater on because it is freaking cold today. It was like -3 this morning, and I don't know where you are from or where you live, but it's just so cold here that I'm just drenching myself in heated blankets, tea, sweaters, like anything warm, it's on right now. So today's video is going to be a book haul and also a mini book unhaul. So there's a couple of books that I was still waiting to arrive. After my last book haul, there was like some gifts, some pre-orders from like Fairy Loot special editions. There was a book that I ordered the same day of the Barnes & Noble sale, and they said they had it in store, but they didn't have it in store, so they let me order it for the same price. Some random pre-orders, a couple of gifts for my husband because his birthday's in January, some bargain books, and also a strange obsession that has taken me over that I never expected. I bought some books of that. And then the unhaul is also kind of incorporated in this because there's some books that I have bought a different copy of, or ones that I just have had for a long time or got and didn't really want, and so I'm gonna be going over those as well. So I'm gonna have both in this video. I've never done that before, and I'm not sure if that's something that anyone has done in the past, but I thought, you know, I have these books to get rid of and I have these books that I've recently gotten, and I just thought I would combine the videos. So first off, we're gonna go over the books that I'm unhauling. The first two books that I'm unhauling were extra books that I got in Fairy Loot boxes. First one being After Love by Tanya Byrne. This book is really pretty, and I have nothing against this book, but it's just not something that interests me, and I'm trying not to hold on to a lot of books that I'm not interested in, because if I don't have time to get to all of the books that I want to read in a year that I already have and I'm interested in, I just don't want to keep around books like this that I don't really have a lot of interest in. I'm sure it's great, and I'm sure that I could read this and may enjoy it, but I'm just trying not to keep those around right now, and I'd rather give this to somebody or sell it to somebody that would appreciate it more, so I'm going to be unhauling this. On that same vein, we also had The Coldest Touch by Isabelle Sterling. Again, this was just one that I wasn't really interested in all that much, and we got it in a Fairy Loot. And you know, if I was interested in it, I probably would have gone out and bought it or found it somehow to listen to, and I'm not, so there's no point in me keeping this copy of it, so I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this too. And I'm not gonna really go into the synopsis of the books that I'm unhauling simply for time, but I did talk about those in the Fairy Loot unboxings. The next one that I'm going to be getting rid of is All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace, and this is the Book of the Month edition. The reason I'm getting rid of this is because it's the Book of the Month edition. I bought the regular US edition hardcover when it was on sale for a very good price, so it would match the second one whenever I decided to pick that up, if I decided to pick that up. And so I felt like I didn't really need this copy of it. Book of the Month copies, like, I like the size, I like what it is, but I don't like that they don't match their counterparts, so that's why I'm getting rid of this one, because I don't need two copies. Another one that I'm getting rid of, but may surprise you, is Kingdom of the Cursed by Carrie Maniscalco, Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. The only reason I'm getting rid of this is because I somehow ended up with two copies of this, and how that happened kind of escapes me. So I don't need two copies of the exact same book, and I have the Fairy Loot edition of Kingdom of the Cursed, so I'm gonna get rid of one of my copies of this. I did love it though, so there's that. I feel like I match this book right now. I love the aesthetic. The next one I'm getting rid of is Girl of Fire and Thorns by Ray Carson. I bought this a few years ago because I was really interested in the book, and I still am really interested in the book, but they recently changed the covers, and I bought this one for like $3, and I bought the rest of the series and the first one in the new covers, so I don't really need to hang on to this one. The next one I'm getting rid of is Days of Blood and Starlight by Alani Taylor. This is the second in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series. And the reason we bought this is because we found it at Bradley's Book Outlet for like $3, and me and my husband had just listened to Daughter of Smoke and Bone, and he really liked it, and I was less than thrilled with it and didn't really like it that much. So I got the second one for him, and then I think he listened to all of them on audiobook, like through the library or something. And I don't see the purpose of me hanging on to the second one when I don't have the first one, I don't have the third one, and I don't really have a desire to finish the series. And if I ever did get curious enough to finish the series, I can listen to them for free from my library. And that's probably how I would do it, so I don't feel the need for me to keep this book around anymore. The last several books that I'm unhauling may come as a surprise to you, and that is the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare. The only reason I'm getting rid of these is because when I bought these, I did not realize they were the UK editions. And so now that I bought the Infernal Devices and the Dark Artifices and Chain of Gold in the US edition paperbacks, they don't match with the mapping and the size, they don't match. So I went ahead, actually, you can see them behind me. I went ahead and bought the US editions of the Mortal Instruments series because I found it for a really good price during like all the holiday sales. So I went ahead and replaced these, and they're right here and they match and it's wonderful. The size is the same and it's beautiful. And I was resisting trying to do that, being like, you have a set of them, you don't need a different set. You have a set of them, you don't need a different set. But it was really bothering me and I really wanted them to match and be the same height and be like this really cool scene, especially when I get the rest of the Last Hours series in paperback. And so I just went ahead and bit the bullet because it was like $30, which is not a bad price for 6 books. So that means I have to get rid of my UK set, which is okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and unhaul these as well. Another unhaul that I would like to mention, there's 2 that I would like to mention that I don't have in front of me currently. The first one is Master of Sorrows by Justin T. Call. I returned the paperback version of that because I was able to get the hardcover version, which I will mention in a second, because it was like the same price when normally the hardcover was like $30, and I was in a time window where I could return it and get it, so I went ahead and did that, and I don't regret it at all. The second one was Nevermoor by Jessica Townsend, and that was a US paperback version that I had got also for like a couple of dollars at a sale. And while I'm very interested in reading that book, I did pick up the UK hardcover edition, which is absolutely beautiful. And so I've had that like laying around for a while, not sure what to do with it. And I ended up gifting it to my friend because I thought she would really enjoy the story, and I had an extra copy. So I thought, why not? This is a good present. So I went ahead and gave that to her. And so I'm also unhauling those 2 books. Okay, so that's all of the books that I'm unhauling. So let's now get into the books that I am hauling. The first book I picked up was Foundation by Isaac Asimov, and this is a very well-known sci-fi series, and I know it's a TV show now, but it's just kind of a really iconic sci-fi series, so I thought John would really love it, and so I went ahead and grabbed him a copy because this was only like $4, and I just thought it would be nice to have. It's also like really small. I thought it was really short, but it's actually 231 pages, but the book is just so small and thin that it seems really short. But yeah, because it's so iconic and because we generally like to have sci-fi around in this house, even though he reads it more than I do sometimes, I just thought it would be a really nice thing to have, and I think he will really enjoy it, and hopefully he can read it and tell me if I will enjoy it. So this is the first one. I'm sorry, I didn't tell you what Foundation was about. Let me go back and do that. So basically what it says in the back for Foundation is that the Galactic Empire has prospered for 12,000 years. Nobody suspects that the heart of the thriving empire is rotting until psychohistorian Harry Seldon uses his new science to foresee its terrible fate. Exiled to the desolate planet Terminus, Seldon establishes a colony of the greatest minds in the empire, a foundation which holds the key to change the fate of the galaxy. However, the death throes of the empire breed hostile new enemies, and the young Foundation's fate will be threatened first. So yeah. The next 2 books I got also for a very discounted price, like $3 or $4 a piece, was the next 2 books in the Fallen Kingdom series. I do have the first one. I haven't read it yet, but I went ahead and grabbed book 2, which is Rebel Spring by Morgan Rhodes. Like I said, this is book 2 in the Fallen Kingdom series. It's a series I'm really interested in reading, and I saw that they were paperbacks for a very good price, so I went ahead and grabbed 2 and 3, and I'll probably stop at that point until I start reading them because I don't want to have like all 6 or 7 books having not read them, even though I do that sometimes. But I couldn't resist 2 or 3, so I went ahead and grabbed Rebel Spring and Gathering Darkness by Morgan Rhodes. It's been a while since I read the synopsis for Fallen Kingdoms, but I don't really know a lot about the series. I just know it's like a older, more popular YA fantasy series, and I've heard people talking about it being like dramatic and fun and like enemies to lovers. And I've heard Olivia Reads a Latte like really enjoy this series, even though it's just kind of like a fun series. So I think I'll enjoy it once I get into it. So I went ahead and grabbed these 2. The next book I picked up at the Barnes & Noble sale, like I said in the beginning, was The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Bielman. And basically this is an adult fantasy that follows a thief who gets in a desperate situation and he ends up trying to rob a female knight, and he's unsuccessful in robbing her, and they end up entangled in this journey together. And I'll read you this little bit. It says, common enemies and uncommon dangers force thief and knight on an epic journey where goblins hunger for human flesh, Krakens hunt in dark waters, and honor is a luxury few can afford. So this just sounds really interesting, and I've heard pretty good things about it, so I was like beelining for this at the Barnes & Noble sale, and when they didn't have it, I was really sad, but then they did give it to me. I just had to order it. So I'm really glad to have this, and I think it's going to be a good time. The next one I got was a Fairy Loot edition of a book I had ordered a long time ago, and that is Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong. This is the matching Fairy Loot edition for These Violent Delights. So I had to get it because it's the second in duology and they match. You know how it goes. So this is what the cover looks like. It's very pretty. And then it has these like dark pink sprayed edges. And the book itself is dark pink and it has foiling on the spine, but not the hardcover. And then this is what the dust jacket looks like underneath. And then of course it is signed. And obviously, because it's the second in the duology, I can't really tell you what it's about, but the first one is basically a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but it's in 1920s Shanghai. And there's some sort of like illness or disease that is taking over people, and when it does, they want to like rip their own throats out or rip other people's throats out. Sounds gruesome. Sounds like a duology I'm really gonna enjoy once I get into it, but I have to read the first one first. But now I have both, so I can just go through it whenever the time comes. I know that series does well. Have you guys read that duology? The next one I got because I had an Amazon gift card for Christmas was Court of Dragons by Frost K. And this is book 1 in the Dragon Isle Wars series. And this just sounds like, I saw the book, Court of Dragons. I saw that it was called the Dragon Isle Wars series. I saw the cover where you can see dragons up there and dragons on the back. And that's essentially all it took for me to buy this book, which may be sad, but I think I'm gonna have a good time with this, and I haven't heard anybody talk about this yet. It did come out last year, towards the end of last year, I believe, so I'm not sure if anybody's read it or not, but I'm really curious about it. It's also got this really pretty artwork, like at the pages. It sounds kind of like the Fae stories you're all kind of familiar with. So Ren is the daughter of the Dragon Court, and she knows 3 truths: never show weakness, pay the tithe, and never trust the elves. But then on the eve of her wedding night, their kingdom is attacked and she is dragged before the Elf King. And then she's given 2 choices, death or marriage. So while she has to submit to this marriage, in the background she's plotting of how to take back her family's throne. And I want to read you a little bit at the back of this. It says, only the strong survive the hash moors of the Dragon Isles, and she can't afford to question her loyalties, leaving one final choice: strike hard and fast, never waver, it's his heart or hers. So you know, it kind of sounds like some of those Fae stories you've heard of, but the fact that this is a court of dragons in the Dragon Isles, and it just sounds kind of like a desolate place with dragons and just like danger everywhere, just sounded really interesting to me. I don't know what possessed me, but I thought this would be fun, so I grabbed it. The next one I got was actually a pre-order, my first pre-order of 2021, and that is the Bone Spindle by Leslie Vedder. And I've talked about this book before, but basically this is a Sleeping Beauty retelling, except it's gender bent, where the prince is the one under a sleeping curse, and she is the one that has to save him. And she has to team up with a warrior to do so, and it just sounds so good. And I love Sleeping Beauty, and so the fact that this is a Sleeping Beauty retelling was very exciting to me, and so I'm very glad I have this, and hopefully I can pick it up soon. And the back says, the sleep of death broken with a single kiss. Kiss the prince, break the curse. I also really like the cover with all the thorns everywhere. Sorry for this lighting. I think the sun is starting to set like way off in the distance, and so it's casting shadows when I put stuff up here, so hopefully I can counteract that somehow. The next one I got was actually an after Christmas sale, and this was from Waterstones, because I needed the UK hardcover edition of this book to match my other one, at least like the sizing and everything, and that is The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik. And this is the second book in the Skullament series, and I'm very excited about it because I did really like A Deadly Education, and so I'm happy to be able to continue with lesson 2 of the Skullomance. And very short premise of the first one is basically there is a magical school that you go to. Once you go, you have to stay there all 4 years, and you either graduate or you die, because there are monsters like looming the hallways and trying to kill you at any moment, and you have to try to make alliances to survive. So yeah, very happy to have this. The next one we got is when we kind of went book shopping for my husband's birthday, and he picked this up because it was 30% off, and I may read it as well, and that is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, because it was the paperback and it was 30% off. It was very exciting stuff. I don't know much about this story. I just know that it was received very well. It's been getting great reviews. Elliot Brooks and Emily Fox have both talked about it, and they're kind of ones that if they like it, my husband usually likes it. And something about riding giant crows, that was the part that got me. I know it's kind of like sci-fi, magic, pre-Columbian Americas, and that's kind of all I know about it. But it does sound really interesting, and hopefully we'll get to this at some point and I'll be able to tell you my thoughts. The next two books I got I'm very excited about, even though they are cookbooks. And the first one is 200 Best Smoothie Bowl Recipes. This was like only a few dollars, and I was very excited about it because I like live on smoothie bowls in the summer. I eat them all the time. I love them. I love smoothies. So especially when it's warmer outside, I'm just like a fiend. So having a recipe book for this is amazing, and I cannot wait to delve into it. We've got some beautiful pictures of some of them in here. So this is fantastic, and I will definitely get a lot of use out of this. And the next one I got that I will also use, but it was just a lot more fun, is Cooking for Wizards, Warriors, and Dragons. And this is a cookbook that's kind of inspired by a lot of food in fantasy novels. So if you see at the bottom, it says 125 unofficial recipes inspired by The Witcher, Game of Thrones, The Broken Earth, and other fantasy favorites. And so this just sounded like so much fun. And so if you flip through it, it'll have like recipes like this. So like this one says Polish potato pancakes inspired by the Witcher series. And then it like has notes on how to make it. And so this just sounded like a book lover's dream or a fantasy lover's dream and delicious food. So I was very happy to have this and growing my little cookbook collection. Okay, this next stack of books that I got, let me just tell you that I absolutely lost my mind. And I read this one book and it started this obsession, and then I started buying up all the books that I thought would be similar to it because I surprisingly enjoyed it way more than I thought I was going to the point where all I want to do is like read those right now. I'm just like in the mood for them. So I bought a bunch of them, and it's a little shameful and I'm a little embarrassed, but at the same time I'm not, because I think I'll have a really fun time with them. So I read Bringing Down the Duke in December by Evie Dunmore, and it's a historical romance, but it's also funny and has sass, but also talks about like feminist issues and women's rights. And I really liked it, and like the more that I think about it, the more I realize how fun it was for me. And I really want to continue reading the rest of her books in the League of Extraordinary Women series. And I bought A Rogue of One's Own and A Portrait of a Scotsman. So I already have those on deck. I love the League of Extraordinary Women series so far, and I'm very excited for the fourth one to come out that doesn't even come out until September. But I started trying to find like recommendations of similar books because I don't think contemporary romance is my thing, but like historical romance that has like English sass and wit, that's kind of my vibe, and I think it's like removed enough that it's really interesting to me. And so I started looking for more recommendations for that, and I stumbled across these books and I bought them all because I found them at a discount website for a good price, and I went insane and am obsessed. So that led to this. This is so embarrassing and horrible, but I really liked it, and I hope I really like these and it's kind of the same feeling, because if it is, I'm gonna have such a fun time. So let me just start. The first one I got is A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem by Amanda Collins, which looks like this. And on the front it says, of all the crime scenes in all the world, she walks into his twice. And basically this is set in 1800s England, and Lady Catherine is a journalist, and she ends up entangled in this kind of like crime scene, but she kind of finds herself under speculation when her latest article leads to an arrest in the murders plaguing London. And it's like, you know, not her place as a woman to write about such things. And then she kind of ends up crossing paths with the detective inspector, Andrew. And she keeps interfering with the investigation. And then so she kind of like flees the scene and then ends up entangled in something else and ends up entangled with this detective again. And he's horrified by this and worried that she's gonna get him like kicked off of the police force. And then obviously some stuff starts brewing between them and they start working together to solve the cases. And this just sounds great and really fun. And I love the title so much. And so this is the first in the historical romance spiral that I've fallen into somehow. The next one is the same author, same series, and that is An Heiress's Guide to Deception and Desire by Amanda Collins. And the name of this series is kind of escaping my mind at the moment, but this one also seems very funny, very out of the ordinary for women at the time, and sassy. This is also in 1800s England, and the main character in this, Caroline, has quite the scandalous reputation, which leads to a broken engagement, but she's more worried about bringing attention to crimes that are going on around her rather than her own reputation being ruined. But when her best friend is kidnapped, she's forced to work with Mr. Thorn, who's the same person who broke her heart. At the same time, Thorn is kind of put in a position where he has to marry, but he has to marry a respectable woman, and her reputation does not point towards that direction. And so as they grow together, you kind of have to see if they're going to work it out or not. It just sounds really fun as well. This just says they're partners in crime and enemies in love. So another one of my historical romance spirals. And you can see how the inspiration for Bringing Down the Duke was kind of like a part of a lot of these books. And I don't care because I had such fun with it. The next one is Miss Latimore's Letter by Suzanne Elaine, at the top, Allen. I'm not sure how to say her last name, but this is this next book. It's a short little thing. And as far as I know, this is a Regency comedy romance. So it's kind of like a Jane Austen type situation. And the main character is writing these love letters, ends up being a matchmaker for all of these people, but she cannot make a match for herself. And basically how this happens is that she understands that she's never going to get married, essentially. But then she sees somebody about to propose to the wrong person and she writes him a letter, and then it just kind of spirals from there and people want advice from her and she's a matchmaker. So then she starts helping Sir Edmund to try to find a bride, but she actually wants to be his bride, and the kind of story goes from there. So also sounds like a pretty fun time, and I've heard this is very Jane Austen-esque. The next one is The Duke Undone by Joanna Lille, which also has a very pretty cover. I really like the covers of these romance books. And I'm just gonna give you the tiniest little blurb on the back. This is what I know about it and why I thought it was kind of funny. The main female character is an artist. And it says, an artist stumbles upon a naked duke and an unlikely love story begins in this captivating Victorian historical romance. And so basically I think what happens is she goes to an academy for painting and she ends up tripping over this guy in an alley, and it's this guy and he's naked, like passed out drunk naked, and she's like horrified by this, but then she can't get it out of her head, and so she paints it as the artist she is, and unknowing to her it was a duke, and somebody finds the painting, and so he's trying to track her down to get this erased because he's a duke, and that is very bad for his reputation, and the story goes from there. So that sounds hilarious. And obviously I've just been in a very like historical romance vein of like dukes and London and 1800s, and I don't know what happened to me. I don't know how this happened. I don't know how I became a historical romance reader, but here we are, buying all these books. So I did hear from like Peace, Love, and Books and a couple of other romance readers that read like legit romance and read a lot of like Tessa Dare and all of those historical romances that I've never touched. I've heard from them that the books that I like Bringing Down the Duke and A Rogue of One's Own and all of those, are ones that they don't like. So I feel like the historical romance books I like are the ones that like legit romance readers dislike. So if you don't like those romances, I would suggest these probably, but wait until I've read them for me to give you my thoughts on them. I just think it's funny because they, like, as I started watching their videos to get recommendations, and all of the ones that I was interested in or really liked, they were like, we don't like it. And as a legit romance reader, we don't like it. And so I was like, oh, maybe I need to read the books you hate. I don't know. It was a very odd conundrum. The next book I got is the first in the Secret Scientist of London series, and that is A Lady's Formula for Love by Elizabeth Everett. As you can see, this is really cool. It's about secret lady scientists in London, and that just sounded so fun. So on the back it says, what is the Victorian lady's formula for love? Mix one brilliant noblewoman and her protection officer, and in a measure of danger and attraction, heat over the warmth of humor and friendship, and the result is more than simple chemistry, it's elemental. And so Lady Violet is a brilliant female scientist, and she actually founded this underground society for lady scientists, and she has a protection officer that she starts to develop feelings for. But then some shadowy threats start happening, with Violet's laboratories endangering her life, her work, and the scientists. And so she has to kind of like delve into what's going on, which just sounds so fun. So yeah, you can tell I'm in deep with this. And the last historical romance book I purchased is the Wisteria Society for Lady Scoundrels by India Holton. I have heard that this book is absolutely hilarious and like such a good time, absolutely like laugh out loud, funny, ridiculous, hilarious, amazing. And look at this cover. And so on the back it says, a prim and proper lady thief must save her aunt from a crazed pirate and his dangerously charming henchman in this fantastical historical romance. And I've heard that this is also, it's not just a historical romance, like there's some like fantasy elements, but it's like ridiculous fantasy elements, like a flying house or something. It's got thieves, pirates, assassins, and it just sounds really fun, really funny, and just like it will be such a good book to pick up and read when you're just like slumping or just really want something lighthearted and hilarious. And so I'm very excited about this, and I have heard a couple people talk about it that aren't like legit historical romance readers, and they've really enjoyed it, and so I think that I will really like it too, and it'll be kind of up my alley with some humor. So also got this. So I can go ahead and blame Evie Dunmore for this stack of books because she started something that I don't think she can finish, because there's gonna be 4 books in her series, and I don't think that's enough for me. So she did this to me. Evie Dunmore, congratulations. How dare you? Oh, I'm in trouble. The last 2 books I got are in the same series, one of them which I mentioned before at the beginning of this video, and that is the hardcover edition of Master of Sorrows by Justin T. Call. This is a beautiful book. It's got this beautiful gold foiling all over it. And I've talked about this book on my channel before, but this is a Dark Lord origin story. And so I got the hardcover edition. And the sequel was also on sale, and so I went ahead and got Master Artificer by Justin T. Call, which also has this stunning cover with the silver foiling. And obviously I can't tell you about this book because it's the sequel, but like I said, the first one is a Dark Lord origin story, and I feel like that's kind of all you need to know going into it. So really glad to have these editions. Hopefully he keeps coming out with these books, because I think there's supposed to be 4 books in total, and this one came out last year, and I don't know when the 3rd one's coming out. But yes, stunning, stunning hardcovers. It's just so pretty and shiny. That was longer than I thought it was gonna be for this video, but that was my little mini unhaul and then haul of some books that I picked up recently, outing my new obsession with historical romance that I never thought that would have happened to me. I never thought I was gonna like historical romance. I never thought I would be so intrigued to read it. And here I stand with a stack of historical romance books next to me. Who am I? What's going on? Have any of you read these historical romance books? I would like to know your opinions. All right, everyone, well, that is it for today's video. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time. Stay safe and caffeinated. Bye.